The door to my Chicago apartment swung open without a single knock, and there he stood, a complete stranger with warm green eyes and an easy smile that stopped me cold. "Whoa, sorry, man. Landlord gave me the wrong key for the unit next door," he said, but instead of backing out right away, he paused, noticing the way I was sitting on the edge of the couch with my head in my hands after another exhausting phone call with my parents. I stared at him, heart hammering. At 28, I had built a decent life here. Marketing job downtown, small but clean place overlooking the river, weekends spent pretending everything was fine. My parents back in downstate Illinois still asked every Sunday when I was going to bring home a nice girl and settle down like my older brother had. They had no idea the real reason I never did. I'd buried that part of me so deep I almost believed it didn't exist anymore. The stranger set his box down in the hallway and stepped halfway inside. "You okay? Look like you just got bad news." His voice was calm, no judgment, just genuine concern. Something in that tone cracked the wall I'd spent years reinforcing. Before I could stop myself, I muttered, "Yeah, family stuff. They think they know what's best for me, but they don't even know me." He nodded slowly, then introduced himself. "I'm Isaiah. Just moved in across the hall. Graphic designer. If you need to vent to someone who isn't related, I make decent coffee." I don't know why I said yes, but 15 minutes later we were sitting at my tiny kitchen table, 2 mugs between us. He talked about his own move from Seattle, how the city felt both exciting and lonely. I found myself opening up more than I had to anyone in years, carefully, without saying the words. He listened like it mattered. By the time he left that night, something had shifted. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying the conversation. For the first time in forever, the secret didn't feel quite so suffocating. The next morning I ran into him again in the hallway, and we ended up grabbing coffee at the corner cafe. He told me about growing up with parents who eventually accepted him after a rough couple of years. I didn't ask what he meant by accepted, but the way he said it made my stomach twist with both hope and fear. Work dragged that week. My boss praised the new campaign, but all I could think about was Isaiah's laugh and the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled. I told myself it was just nice to have a friend who didn't expect me to be someone I wasn't. Friday night he knocked again, this time with takeout Thai food. "Figured you might not feel like cooking after that family call you mentioned." We ate on the couch, talking about everything and nothing, movies, bad dates he'd been on, my sister's upcoming wedding I was dreading. When he left, I caught myself smiling at the closed door. For the first time, the apartment didn't feel empty. But that smile faded when my phone buzzed with a text from Mom. "Can't wait to meet your +1 for the wedding, honey. Any special girl yet?" I stared at the screen until it went black. The secret pressed back down, heavier than before. Saturday morning Isaiah texted asking if I wanted to check out a new exhibit at the Art Institute. I said yes before I could overthink it. We spent hours walking through the galleries, and for those hours the weight lifted. He pointed out details I never would have noticed, and I found myself laughing freely. On the train ride home he asked, "You ever feel like you're living someone else's life?" I nodded before I could stop myself. He didn't push. He just said, "Yeah, me too," once. That night I couldn't sleep. His words kept echoing. I pulled out an old journal I hadn't touched since college and wrote the sentence I had never let myself write before. "I think I might be gay." The words stared back at me, terrifying and freeing all at once. I closed the book quickly, heart racing, but the truth was already out in the open inside my own mind. Sunday brunch with my roommate Jake turned tense when he asked why I'd been smiling so much lately. "New neighbor?" he teased. I brushed it off, but the question lingered. Isaiah and I kept hanging out, casual walks along the lake, late-night talks on my balcony. Each conversation chipped away at the wall I'd built. He never asked directly, but I could tell he suspected. And part of me wanted him to know. By the end of the month, I realized I was falling for the stranger who had accidentally walked into my life. The realization scared me more than anything ever had. Because if I let myself feel this, everything, my family, my job, the careful life I'd constructed, might come crashing down. Yet when Isaiah knocked on my door again one rainy evening, holding 2 umbrellas and a grin, I knew I couldn't keep pretending forever. The rain tapped steadily against the window as Isaiah and I sat on the floor of my living room surrounded by half-finished sketches he'd brought over. "You're actually good at this," I told him, pointing to a quick portrait he'd done of the city skyline. He laughed, the sound warm and easy. Years of practice hiding from my own feelings, I guess. The comment hung between us. I wanted to ask what he meant, but the word stuck. Instead, I changed the subject to the upcoming office party my company was throwing. He offered to be my plus one as a friend. No pressure, just moral support. I said yes too quickly. That night after he left, I paced the apartment, replaying every glance, every accidental brush of hands. Jake noticed my distraction the next day and joked, "Dude, you got it bad for someone." I froze. What? No, just tired. But the lie tasted sour. The office party arrived faster than I expected. Isaiah showed up in a simple button-down that made his shoulders look strong and steady. We mingled, and for a while it felt normal. Then my colleague Sarah pulled me aside. "Who's the guy? He's cute. You two seem close." I stammered something about him being a neighbor. She smiled knowingly. "Well, he looks at you like you hung the moon." My face burned. Later that night, Isaiah and I walked home along the river walk. Streetlights reflected off the wet pavement, and the city felt alive in a way it never had. "Thanks for coming," I said quietly. He stopped under a glowing lamp. "Anytime, Beckett. You don't have to carry everything alone." His words hit hard. I almost told him right then. Almost. Instead, I mumbled goodnight and hurried inside. The next week brought more coffee dates and deeper talks. Isaiah shared stories about coming out to his own family, how his dad hadn't spoken to him for 6 months, but eventually showed up at his graduation with a card that simply said, "Proud." The hope in his voice made my chest ache. I wanted that kind of courage. But every time I pictured telling my parents, I saw my mom's disappointed face and my dad's silence. Jake started asking questions. "You and Isaiah hang out a lot. You into him or something?" I snapped back too fast. "He's just a friend." The look Jake gave me said he didn't believe it. That weekend, my sister called about wedding plans. "Mom wants to know if you're bringing anyone. She's worried you're lonely." The pressure built until I felt like I might explode. Isaiah noticed my mood and suggested a hike outside the city. We drove to Starved Rock, the autumn leaves blazing around us. On a quiet overlook, he turned to me. "You know you can tell me anything, right?" I almost did. The words were right there. But fear won. I changed the subject again. Back home, the misunderstanding happened. Jake saw Isaiah leaving my place late one night and cornered me the next morning. "Look, if you're gay, it's cool, but you don't have to lie about it." I denied everything, voice shaking. Isaiah heard the tale, and when he stopped by with bagels. The hurt in his eyes was brief, but real. "I'll give you space," he said quietly and left. I spent the next 3 days replaying that moment. The distance felt wrong. On the 4th day, I knocked on his door. "I'm sorry. I'm just scared." He invited me in, no questions asked. We talked until sunrise. For the first time, I admitted out loud to another person that I had feelings for men. He didn't flinch. He just nodded and said, "That took guts. I'm proud of you." The friendship deepened after that. We spent evenings cooking together, watching old movies, sharing pieces of ourselves. Attraction grew, quiet but undeniable. One evening, he reached over and brushed a stray hair from my forehead. The touch lingered. Neither of us pulled away. But I still hadn't told my family, and the secret sat between us like a shadow. Work brought new tension when Sarah casually mentioned to the team that Beckett and his boyfriend looked cute at the party. Whispers started. I corrected her, but the damage was done. My boss pulled me aside later. Nothing official, just be careful with office gossip. The warning stung. Isaiah listened when I told him, his face serious. "You don't have to come out until you're ready. But hiding forever isn't living." His words stayed with me. I began imagining a future where I didn't hide. The thought both thrilled and terrified me. When my parents announced they were coming for a surprise visit the following weekend, the fear became real. Isaiah offered to be there if I needed backup. I said I'd handle it. But deep down, I knew the visit would force everything into the open, one way or another. My parents arrived on a crisp Friday evening, suitcases in hand, and expectations written all over their faces. Mom hugged me tight. "You look thin, honey. Are you eating enough?" Dad clapped my shoulder. "Proud of you, son. That promotion sounds solid." The weight of their pride pressed down immediately. Isaiah had texted earlier offering moral support, but I told him I needed to do this alone. Dinner at a downtown restaurant felt like walking a tightrope. Mom brought up the wedding again. Your brother's wife keeps asking about your date. Anyone special? I forced a smile and mumbled something about being busy. Dad changed the subject to football, but the question hung in the air. Later, back at my apartment, Mom noticed the second coffee mug in the sink. You have company often? I shrugged. Neighbor stops by sometimes. She smiled knowingly. A girl neighbor? I changed the subject, but the lie burned. Saturday morning they wanted to see my new life. We walked the river walk, and of course we ran into Isaiah coming back from a run. He waved casually. My mom's eyes lit up. Friend of yours? I introduced them quickly. Isaiah shook their hands with that easy charm. Dad asked what he did for work. The conversation flowed, but I could feel my pulse racing. After they left to sightsee, Isaiah texted. They seem nice. You okay? I wasn't. That night my parents stayed in a hotel, but Mom called before bed. Isaiah seems like a good young man. You two spend a lot of time together. The question felt loaded. I brushed it off again. Sunday brunch brought the real test. Over eggs Benedict, Mom said. We just want you happy, Beckett. Settled. Like your brother. Dad nodded. Life's easier with the right woman by your side. I felt the room close in. The secret clawed at my throat. I almost said it right there. Instead, I excused myself to the bathroom and texted Isaiah, I can't do this much longer. He replied instantly, You don't have to. I'm here. The visit ended with hugs and promises to visit soon. As soon as their car pulled away, I called Isaiah. He came over without hesitation. We sat on the balcony as the sun set over the skyline. I almost told them, I admitted. He listened, then shared more of his own story, how coming out had cost him holidays for a while, but gained him freedom. His honesty gave me courage. Monday at work the gossip had spread. A coworker asked outright if Isaiah was my boyfriend. I denied it again, but the denial felt hollow. Jake confronted me that evening. You're not being fair to yourself or to him. His words stung because they were true. Isaiah and I went for a walk along the lake that night. The city lights reflected on the water like scattered stars. He stopped and turned to me. Beckett, whatever you decide, I'm not going anywhere. But I care about you. More than as a friend. The confession hung between us. My heart pounded. I reached out and took his hand. It felt right. We didn't kiss, but the simple touch said everything. The next days blurred into stolen moments, quiet dinners, late talks, gentle brushes of shoulders. Friendship had quietly become something deeper. Then the misunderstanding hit. Jake saw us holding hands on the balcony and assumed the worst. You lied to me, man. And now you're parading it around. He stormed out. The next day at work, Sarah cornered me. People are talking. You might want to be careful. The pressure mounted. Isaiah noticed my distraction and asked what was wrong. I told him about Jake. He offered to talk to him, but I said no. Friday brought the company happy hour. Isaiah came as support. Everything seemed fine until my boss pulled me aside again. Keep personal stuff personal, okay? The warning was polite but clear. On the way home, Isaiah squeezed my hand. We'll figure it out. But doubt crept in. Was I ready for all the consequences? That weekend, my sister called crying about wedding stress and asked if I could bring someone to keep Mom off her back. The request felt like a trap. Isaiah overheard and said, I'll go if you want. The offer meant everything and terrified me. I said I'd think about it. Sunday night we cooked together. The kitchen filled with laughter and the smell of garlic. For a few hours the outside world disappeared. When he left, I stood at the door longer than usual. The feelings were undeniable now. I was in love with Isaiah. The realization brought both joy and fear. Because love this real demanded truth. And truth demanded courage I wasn't sure I had yet. The wedding invitation sat on my kitchen counter like a ticking bomb. Gold lettering, perfect calligraphy, and the +1 line staring back at me. Isaiah noticed it during one of our evening talks. You should bring whoever makes you happy, he said softly. I wanted to bring him. The thought both excited and paralyzed me. Work became a minefield. The rumors had reached HR. Nothing formal, just a polite reminder about professional boundaries. Jake barely spoke to me anymore. His silence hurt more than arguments. I tried to explain, but he shut down. I thought we were friends. Friends don't hide who they are. The words echoed long after he left the room. Isaiah's own life wasn't easy. His freelance client pulled a project after seeing a social media post of us at a concert. Too much drama, the email said. He shrugged it off, but I saw the frustration. This is why some people stay hidden, he told me one night. We sat on my couch, shoulders touching, and for the first time I leaned into him. The closeness felt like coming home. My family called more frequently. Mom sent pictures of potential bridesmaids she thought I'd like. Each message chipped at my resolve. Finally, I told Isaiah I wanted him at the wedding. His smile could have lit the whole city. Only if you're ready, he said. I nodded, heart full. The betrayal came without warning. Sarah from work posted a group photo from the happy hour on her private social media. Someone tagged me. The caption read, Beckett and his mystery man. My cousin saw it and sent it to my mom. The phone call came at midnight. Beckett, what is this? Who is that man? Mom's voice shook. Dad took the phone. Son, we need to talk. In person. I hung up, shaking. Isaiah held me while I cried for the first time in years. I'll be there when they come, he promised. The next day my parents drove up unannounced. The confrontation in my living room was brutal. Mom cried. Dad paced. We raised you right. This isn't you. I tried to explain, but every word felt inadequate. Isaiah waited in the hallway, giving us space. When Dad saw him, the anger flared. Is this the one filling your head with ideas? Isaiah stepped in calmly. I care about your son. That's all. The room exploded with accusations and tears. My parents left saying they needed time. The door closing behind them felt like a chapter ending. Isaiah stayed the night on the couch. We didn't talk much, just sat together in the quiet. Work the next day brought more fallout. My boss called me in. The family photos on social media are causing issues with clients. Take some personal time. It wasn't a firing, but it felt like one. Jake finally spoke to me in the break room. I'm sorry I was an ass. I just didn't know how to handle it. His apology helped, but the damage was done. Isaiah and I took a long walk along the lake that evening. The wind off the water matched the storm inside me. I sacrificed a lot today, I told him. He nodded. Sometimes you have to lose pieces to find the real you. His hand found mine. We stood there watching the sunset, and for the first time I felt the weight begin to lift. The following week my sister called. The wedding was still on, but Mom had asked her to talk to me. They love you, Beckett. They're just scared. I thanked her and hung up. Isaiah suggested we get away for a weekend. We drove to a cabin up north. No phones, just the woods and each other. Around the campfire, he told me about the first man he ever loved and how that relationship taught him to fight for happiness. I shared my own fears. He listened without fixing. That weekend solidified everything. Back in the city, the real test waited. My parents texted they wanted to meet Isaiah properly. The invitation surprised me. We agreed to dinner. The night was tense, but civil. Mom asked careful questions. Dad stayed mostly quiet. At the end, Dad shook Isaiah's hand. Take care of my boy. It wasn't full acceptance, but it was a start. The relief lasted until Monday when an old college friend messaged me. He'd seen the social media post and wanted details. The story was spreading. Isaiah's ex-client called back offering the project again. Apparently, the controversy generated buzz. Small victories. Yet the biggest battle still loomed, my own heart. I had sacrificed silence for truth. Now I had to live with the consequences. Isaiah stood beside me through every step. His steady presence reminded me why the fight mattered. Love wasn't just the happy moments. It was choosing each other even when the world pushed back. The turning point arrived on a rainy Thursday. Isaiah received a call from his biggest client canceling a major campaign because the optics aren't great right now. The excuse was thin. Everyone knew it was because of the photos circulating online. He tried to play it cool when he told me, but I saw the defeat in his eyes. I can find other work, he said, but we both knew how hard that would be. I felt responsible. If I had been braver sooner, maybe none of this would have happened. That night, I made a decision. The next morning, I walked into my boss's office and came out, officially. I'm gay, and I'm not hiding it anymore. The words tasted like freedom. He nodded slowly. We support diversity. Just keep it professional. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest. Jake heard through the office grapevine and pulled me aside. Proud of you, man. Sorry I made it harder. His support meant more than he knew. I texted Isaiah the news. He met me for lunch, eyes shining. You did that for us. I nodded. For me too. My family's reaction came next. Mom called crying again. We're trying, Beckett. We really are. Dad sent a short text. We love you. Come home for Thanksgiving if you want. Bring Isaiah. The invitation felt like a lifeline. Isaiah and I talked about it for hours. They're trying, he said. That's more than some people get. The real sacrifice came when my company offered me a promotion, but only if I kept personal matters private for client-facing events. I turned it down. The decision cost me financially, but the peace it brought was worth every penny. Isaiah supported me completely. We'll figure money out together. Friends from college reached out with mixed reactions. Some celebrated. Others drifted away. The loss hurt, but the people who stayed, Jake, Sarah, a few others, became closer. Isaiah's circle welcomed me too. His best friend threw us a small dinner party. For the first time I sat at a table where no one questioned who I was. The climax built slowly. My sister's wedding approached. Mom asked me to walk her down the aisle alongside my brother. We want you there as you are. Isaiah would be my date. The night before the wedding we stayed at a hotel near the venue. I paced the room, nerves raw. Isaiah pulled me into a hug. You've already faced the hardest parts. This is just one more step. The ceremony was beautiful. When I walked my sister down the aisle, Mom smiled through tears. At the reception, Isaiah and I danced our first slow dance in public. No one stared. No one whispered. Or if they did, I didn't care. My dad even clapped when the song ended. But the biggest emotional moment came later that night. Alone on the balcony overlooking the venue lights, Isaiah turned to me. I love you, Beckett. Not because it's easy. Because it's real. I said it back without hesitation. The words I had feared for so long felt natural now. The next morning my parents sat us down for coffee. We don't understand everything, Dad admitted. But we see how happy you are. That's enough for now. Mom hugged Isaiah. Small steps, but steps forward. Driving home, I felt changed. The man who once hid in shadows now walked in light. The journey had cost friendships, career momentum, and family comfort. But it had given me something priceless, myself. Isaiah held my hand the entire way. We talked about the future. Maybe a bigger place together, maybe traveling. The possibilities felt endless. Yet life still tested us. A distant relative posted something negative online. Isaiah lost another small client. I faced awkward conversations at work. Each challenge reminded me that acceptance wasn't a finish line, it was a daily choice. Through every test, Isaiah stayed steady. His love taught me that strength wasn't pretending to be straight. Strength was choosing to be honest even when it hurt. I had sacrificed the old version of me, and in its place stood someone who finally felt whole. Months passed in a blur of new routines and quiet victories. Isaiah and I found a bigger apartment with a view of the lake. Mornings began with coffee on the balcony and ended with shared dinners. My family visited twice, awkward at first, then easier. Mom even asked Isaiah for recipe advice. Dad watched football with us without tension. Small miracles. Work stabilized. I took a lateral move to a more creative team where my personal life didn't matter as much. The pay was slightly less, but the peace was greater. Jake became one of my biggest supporters, introducing Isaiah to his own circle. The friendships that survived grew deeper. One crisp autumn evening, Isaiah and I walked the same river walk where our story began. The city lights danced on the water just like they had that first night. He stopped under the same glowing lamp. Remember when I accidentally walked into your life? I laughed. Best wrong key ever. He pulled a small box from his pocket. Not a ring, too soon for that, but a key. To our future. Wherever it leads. I took it, throat tight. In that moment, every struggle, every tear, every sacrifice felt worth it. We had built something real. The holidays brought the ultimate test. Thanksgiving at my parents' house. The whole family gathered. My brother's kids asked innocent questions. Is Isaiah your husband? I smiled and said, not yet. Mom's eyes softened. Dad raised a glass. To Beckett and Isaiah. Welcome to the family. The toast wasn't perfect, but it was sincere. Christmas brought snow and quiet nights by the fire in our new place. Isaiah's parents flew in from Seattle. The four of us cooked together, laughter filling the kitchen. Two families learning to blend. The journey hadn't been easy, but it had been ours. Spring arrived with new beginnings. I started volunteering at an LGBTQ youth center, sharing pieces of my story with kids who needed to hear they weren't alone. Isaiah landed a dream client who loved his authentic style. Life moved forward. Looking back, I realized the stranger who walked through my door that rainy afternoon hadn't just entered my apartment. He had entered my heart and changed its shape forever. The boy who once hid his truth had become a man who lived it proudly. Love hadn't been the easy path, but it had been the right one. Isaiah and I sat on the balcony one warm evening watching the sunset paint the skyline gold. He turned to me. Worth it. I didn't hesitate. Every single step. True or false? True love always requires sacrificing family approval to find acceptance.